Welcome to a Comic Tropes live stream, an art live stream. I'm your host, Chris. I'm your artist, Chris. And today I'm tackling another commission. I've explained this. The last several drawings I've done and the next few that I will be doing are all some commissions I took basically to help raise money for a friend in need. So I'm going to give people a few moments to filter into the chat room. But just wanted to greet you all. I'm promoting it on social media right now that I'm going live. Excuse me. Today, the commission request was Solid Snake, a character from Metal Gear, the Metal Gear video games. Let's say hello to Pokeball, hello to Mark, and hello to J. Andrew World. Nice to have everybody here. Thank you so much. That's really nice. So I've got just the barest hints of like an illustration that I think I'll be doing today. Solid Snake and not Naked Snake. Drat, I like Big Boss. Yeah, you know what? That's going pretty far down the mythology hole. I only know a little bit about Solid Snake. I've played a couple of the games, but not all of them. So let's see. Hello to Ace and Watchful and Harmonious subscriber. Hello to Lawrence and hello to Misfit and Bootleg Keanu Reeves. Cool. Nice to have all of you here. Like I say, feel free to ask any questions. Picked up some new tools for myself today. I picked up a flesh-toned Copic marker in case I decide to do any coloring. Don't know if I'll have time for that today. I've done lots of digital art, Pokeball. Yeah, I love working digitally. I've got a Micron liner in case I need that. And I got myself a very small, fine brush pen. So that should be fun. Let's see. Hello to Talon and Smithy. So, wow, cool. Lots of folks jumping in. That's great. Metal Gear Solid 3 is a prequel in Cold War Russia. Oh, that sounds pretty good. Hello, Day. Hello, what else? James Gleason. And, cool. Of the Metal Gear games, which have you played? Whatever the first one was on Nintendo, which I think was just called Metal Gear, I played that, but I didn't get very far. That was a tough game. When it came to the PlayStation 1, I played, I want to say it was called Metal Gear Solid, if I'm remembering correctly. And then after that, the next one that I played was the one that came out like a few years back, the open world game, and I really can't remember what that one was called. Hello to CBM Reviews, Monstro Pixel, TARDIS Rider. Nice to see so many folks today. Metal Gear Solid 5. Yeah, that does sound right. It was probably the fifth one. And so yeah, time to start locking in what I'm gonna illustrate tonight. So if I don't get every characteristic about this character correct, we'll just call that artistic interpretation. But of course, the real reason is that I sort of know the character, but I'm not an expert, I guess is what I should say. And yeah. You know what? If I'm going to do this in finer detail, I'll zoom in. And I'll just have to, every once in a while, take a look to my left at my computer monitor to make sure that I'm still doing a good job with focusing what you guys need to see. People are joking about like the infamous thing where it just goes, if you die in this game, you have a guy on the other end of the your communicator calling for you. Snake? Snake? Snake! It's famous or infamous, depending on your mileage, I guess. I'm just trying to make sure that I have things the way I want here. Most of it I'll find once I get to the inking stage, but there's still a few things to determine here. Anyway, let's see what kind of questions we have. The Infinity Ammo Bandana. That must be some sort of a power-up. Let's see. There have been so many Metal Gear Solid games. Yeah, there haven't there? The symbolism of Solid Snake very much reminds me of the esoteric symbolism found in the 007 film series. Alright. Well, that sounds cool. See, so we give him a kind of... Looks like he has a muscular physique, but not quite bodybuilder. So, you know, something more than like a cyclist or swimmer. Yet at the same time... important not to beef him up too much. So I'm trying to keep that in mind. Let's see here. My sister says that she's trying to watch my live stream. I'm telling her that it started. Let's see. Wow. So I guess folks are really into this character. It seems like you guys know a lot more about him than I do. So that's my loss. I was getting some complaints that I call this drawing, although it's mostly inking. Fair. Basically, a lot of the decisions that need to be made before I get to the inking stage can really take me quite a while. I have to do a fair amount of planning to lock in what I'm hoping to do. But this time I tried to leave it as open as possible, even though I did do some preliminary sketching to make sure I knew what I wanted to illustrate tonight. Just trying to give you at least some of that. Still making a bunch of decisions here, actually. Happy to answer any questions since I know I'm being a little quiet. Whew, definitely at first based off Snake Plissken. Yeah, I think so too. Oh, hey, look, that's me on the screen. Yep. Snake fits the lineup for superhero Thunder Thighs. I think that this is a pretty reasonable leg weight. But, as with all things, your mileage may vary. As with all things. Um, let's see here. Just answering my sister's question here. She's having trouble finding my live stream. So I'm trying to tell her what it is. Bear with me, folks. I'm trying to be a good brother here. Okay, it says that there's 39 of us here. That's pretty cool. Thank you. Thank you very much. Out of all the movies based on video games, Metal Gear should have been made already. Yeah, that seems like a thing that you could make. There's a director that wants to. The guy that just made that Kong Skull Island movie. I know he's very interested in making this as a movie, and I liked that Kong Skull Island movie. That was a pleasant surprise to. I just didn't go in with high expectations of it, and I ended up liking it quite a bit. Alright, I'm going to zoom back out and start with some brush work to really get this looking a little more precise than I have now. I've made a couple decisions. And if you've seen one of my streams before, you know one of my preferred things to do at the beginning is to sort of lock in the outlines. Because those should be a little bit darker than the rest of the piece. Did you know that Hawk Girl is Mexican? Nope, never heard that. Let's see. Folks are saying that if it was a movie that The Rock would be Snake. Well, maybe. I could see Metal Gear working very well as a movie. I don't think it needs a huge story. It just needs an interesting character, an interesting protagonist, and an antagonist. But I think that there's plenty of that to be found in the series. I'm hearing a weird sound outside, and I'm not sure if it's a dog or a bird. It's oh, oh, which I guess when I do it, it sounds like it's definitely a dog, but it's sort of a hooting type of sound, so I really can't identify it. I doubt y'all can hear it over my live stream because it's not that loud. But anyway, Chris, have you ever played any of the Metal Gear Solid games? I've played, I believe, 3 of them. I played the one on the NES, the first one there, Metal Gear Solid 1, and Metal Gear Solid 5. What else? That sound you can't identify? Sasquatch, that's true. What's my fave Metal Gear game? I guess the most recent one. I like that one quite a bit. That was pretty fun. Pretty much open world. You just sort of choose your missions as they come along. Yeah, it was pretty good. Is there a consensus on which one is the best or the most popular or anything like that? Can't recommend enough the Metal Gear Solid art books produced by Dark Horse. Have to be honest, I've never heard of those. Gotta play Metal Gear Solid 3. Okay. Metal Gear on NES is very hard. Yeah, I basically kept getting lost when I was playing that. Now, that was so long ago that I was a kid and I didn't have the patience to like make a map or anything. But I also don't really feel like you should have to. Like, what a hassle to sort of make and memorize a map. Well, back to work tomorrow. Today is my personal Sunday. And I've got a lot to do with my day today. I still have to record the next comic tropes for everybody. But I'm feeling good about it. It's going to be about an artist again. And it's going to discuss, to a large extent, cover art. And how that differs from creating sequential pages inside interior art. How those are sort of two different beasts. I hope you have seen, enjoyed Shazam. Great topic. Yeah, I did see Shazam. And you know what? I was surprised by how much I liked it. I thought it was quite well done. It's kind of cheesy or corny, but it knows that it is. So, it was really fun. It was like the same way I'd say that the original Raimi Spider-Man movies are kind of like that. And I'd still say that those are the best Spider-Man movies personally. Or at least the first two. And I don't hate the third one. I don't. There's problems with it, but overall I do still enjoy it. So yeah, personally, I recommend Shazam. I thought it was a lot of fun. Very, very good movie. Bill Kane was one of the best cover artists in the comics industry. Yeah, I'd agree with that, James Gleason. James, you're James. Gil Kane is underrated. Underrated. This time I've got 12 shots, huh? I'm curious, do you have an opinion you wish to share about fellow comic reviewer Linkara and his style? You know what? I wouldn't be able to give an informed opinion. I'm afraid I don't watch his show. I'm aware he exists. My understanding is he does more comedy reviews every week. If I'm wrong about that, then I apologize, but that's my understanding. I have mentioned before that one thing I try to do with my channel is not watch other channels that review comics. I don't want to get influenced by either their opinions or their choice of subject matter, because I'm sure there's going to be a lot of overlap in terms of both which comics we decide to review and even some of our opinions. But I don't want to accidentally, quote somebody else. So it's very important to me to sort of maintain a healthy distance from other comic reviewers. The closest for me is that I will watch cartoonist kayfabe, and that's because I think that they approach things from a very different angle than what I aim to do, which is, they look at things like Wizard and use that as like a leaping off point to talk about other artists and comics of the time and how things have evolved. Whereas I tend to focus on like one character or one artist or one subject each week. So I really feel that they approach things differently than doing pure reviews, in other words. Not exclusively, but anyway, that is one that I do watch. But I don't watch, which one was it? Linkara. So I've definitely heard of things like Linkara, and I want to say Comic Storian, Comic Book Girl. Definitely heard those. I see them suggested to me when I log into YouTube. They're like, well, you'd probably be interested in some of this stuff. So I see like, the thumbnails sometimes, and I really try to just go, cool, glad that there's other people that are passionate about comics out there. Don't really want to get overly influenced by other shows. Anyway, one of my favorite comic artists right now is Jorge Jimenez. What do you think of him? I'd have to read some more of his work to have an informed opinion, Connor. I do want to do some more recent artists, though, so I am trying to read some more recent comics here and there to sort of find something that inspires me to discuss it. Do you post your artwork online, and if so, where do you post them? Well, I'm posting it here, and aside from that, just Instagram, I think. Yeah. Let's see. Are you going to teach us the basics of close quarters combat? No, but technically I probably could teach you a few things. I did take Krav Maga for several years. So I do have some actual experience with close quarter combat. Yeah. You're better than most other shows. Galactus bless you. Well, thank you, Bob Kane is a friend. I noticed the theater was half full when I seen it. Which movie are you guys talking about? I missed something. Sorry. Comic Book Girl X Comic Tropes would be the hypest tag team. Yeah, like I say, I'm really not familiar with that show. I'm only aware that it exists. Sorry. J. Andrew World submitting something to Fantagraphics. Fantastic publisher. Good luck with that. That's awesome to hear. I sincerely wish you nothing but success with something like that. That's awesome. I have found that I have very little time when it comes to anything outside of comic tropes. Like, even this is a huge challenge for me to fit in, I wish I could do more drawing and stuff. It's tough. It's very tough. I did Inktober this past October. I think I did it the year before too, like as in like live streaming it, and it just killed me. It really did. Most days I had work the next morning. It was tough. It was tough. What else is being asked? Zachary Levi is a great ambassador for the character. He is, yeah. He's a really funny guy. Chris, you should avoid some of these other channels. They are run by hate-filled lunatics. Well, like I say, I wouldn't know that. I don't watch them. Whether they're hate-filled or whether they're awesome, I don't want to get influenced by their choices on subject matter or their opinions. I'm very intentionally avoiding most of them. They could be perfectly lovely people, but I just I feel like it's just too risky to watch something so similar. Like if you hosted a late night talk show, I don't think you should be watching your competition. You know what I mean? Because they might have like a really hilarious, sketch or bit with the audience or something. And I think subconsciously you could be tempted to do something like that. And that wouldn't be a wise idea. You should maintain your own voice and trust in that. Anyway, maybe I'm wrong, but and I wish I could watch those channels, to be honest, because I would love to just veg out to comic book related content, but I think it would just be too risky for ruining my show. I get a non-stop stream of video recommended at me by YouTube full of blah, blah, blah. I can't read that word. Shrieking about SJWs and how Brie Larson has destroyed Marvel and Black Panther is overrated. Oh, wow. Well, I don't think so. What's my favorite car that I've ever sold? At a certain point, you've sold so many, they all really blend together. But I will say that I sort of have fallen in love with the BMW M4. That's a pretty dope car. It's powerful and comfortable. And I'd always sort of had like a little bit of a resistance to, what do you call it? Like BMWs. I just felt like that they were maybe too expensive to maintain. But yeah, the M4 sort of was like, I was like, well, this is just a great car. This is just great. And now, when I go out in anything less than 250 horsepower, I'm like, So performance cars spoil you. Would you watch stuff you already reviewed? Mr. Sunday Movies animated the Luke Cage comic you reviewed. Oh, yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe I would. That's pretty cool. You know what? I'm going to switch to an even smaller pen here for this. Just feel like, yeah. I feel like I'm not talking enough tonight. I don't know. Let me think. What should I talk about? My favorite stuff to talk about is comics, movies, and traveling. Those are the things that I love talking about. I never at a loss for words when those topics come up. But when you're talking just by yourself, it's tougher. You're the closest thing to Prisoners of Gravity these days. Oh, yeah, people have told me about that one. Do you watch regular car reviews? I don't. I could. Regular car reviews. I'll keep that in mind. Yeah, as part of my job, now that I'm selling used cars, I definitely do read news about cars more frequently than I ever used to. Definitely starting to form opinions on like what kind of things I like in vehicles and what my favorite stuff is. But you can find stuff to like about almost any vehicle. It all depends on the situation you're in and like what you need out of a vehicle. I sell tools, so I watch a lot of tool channels. Totally makes sense. Totally. Highly recommend them. Real funny people. Okay. I'm watching Hellboy on Thursday, but I'm worried it's going to be severely underwhelming. Well, I don't blame you, CBM. The trailers don't inspire a lot of confidence in me. I feel like the special effects look kind of haphazard. But I will say that the comic that it's based on, The Wild Hunt, is damn solid. Really, really good story that hasn't been adapted anywhere else yet. So that could be cool, you know? Like, that's sort of new. So we'll see. Hopefully, you know, like, the cast is strong. I like David Harbour on Stranger Things. Not necessarily saying a lot because I haven't seen him in too many pieces. But, you know, I like Hellboy. I want Hellboy to be good. But I agree, I'm also nervous because that trailer didn't really do much for me. Have you seen Shazam? I did, and I quite liked it. Did I watch Umbrella Academy? I've gotten 9 episodes through Umbrella Academy. My fiance likes it a lot. My sister liked it a lot, I think. Some of my friends liked it a lot. I feel like it moves very slow. I'm not motivated to get through it in a very timely fashion. It seems like if you've read the comics, you find the show kind of slow and not that out there. If you've never watched it before, then you will probably like the TV show. I think that the comic book and the TV show are kind of different beasts, and it sets you up with different expectations depending on what you've seen. That seems to be my take. Chris, do you watch The Walking Dead? I would, but I am so tight on money. I canceled my TV quite a while ago, so I just don't have TV. So I'd be happy to watch it, but yeah, no, can't afford that right now. So super chats are not needed, but they're always welcome. Yeah, someday down the road, if things change, you know, I'd love to get things like some of the streaming services like Hulu, CBS All Access, and what's the one? DC's streaming service. Yeah. Do you have any original comics you've made or published? Have you thought about it? Yeah, I've published quite a few. It's all pretty indie stuff on... well, no, I should say I've done 2 things. And some people here have probably heard me blather on about this before, but yeah, I have self-published a bunch of stuff back in like the mid-2000s with a bunch of friends when I was living in DC. We published a lot of anthologies full of short stories and stuff, and then I've also worked sort of freelance, you could say, to just as an illustrator on a story and some educational comics that you could find at pretty much any store anywhere. So I've done a few things. I'd like to do more as a writer, but in order to do that, I want to be able to pay my artists, and just not in a position to do that right now, so that has to wait. But eventually I hope to be in a position where I can do that. Can I draw a googly guy for you? Yes. Is that my sister asking that? That has to be. I know I mentioned it one time, but when I was a little kid, I would draw a made-up character of my own creation that was called a googly guy. And yeah, he was a very simple character. He had a big nose, big googly eyes, hence his name, obviously. He always sort of had like hooded eyelids, and he'd be like sort of looking off to the side. He had a big mustache, not quite sure why, but sorry, I made him look a little crazy there. And then he was just very simple. Aside from that, he had a belt that looked like this. His legs were just sticks that almost looked like musical notes. He had stick arms with only like 3 fingers, and a backwards ball cap. I think I've remembered how to draw him. And then I would often have something like, you know, a bomb get tossed in from off panel, or he'd realize that he was standing on a crumbling cliff, and he basically just, you know, it was very much inspired by Looney Tunes, I guess. So there you go, Gene, if that's what you said. Hello, Graphite Grappler. So yeah, he'd just sort of have bombs and cliffs, and he'd just basically get hurt a lot. Googly guy. Well, like I was really, really young when I was making that. Just to be clear, like younger than 10, like maybe like 6, maybe. What's the most exotic place you visited? Exotic? I don't know. Maybe Osaka, Japan. That's a little bit exotic, at least to most people here in the United States. Any opinion about the trailer for Joker? Surprised at how cool that looked. Did not have any expectations for that to be anything that I'd be interested in. And then I was like, well, kind of dig that. So that was a pleasant surprise. We'll see. All of a sudden I'm like, yeah, okay, fine. Different continuity. I'm okay with it. This could be an interesting story to explore. I used to make a lot of weird comics when I was a kid. Good. Most exotic place I've been is Florida. Hate it. Okay. Is it cool with you if I hit you up on your Facebook page for your opinion on a possible mini-series? I'll be honest. It's very unlikely that I will have time to answer a question about like a personal comics project that you have, and I'm not trying to be rude. I'm trying to be upfront. I can't explain quite how little free time I have. So you can ask, but please don't be offended if you like don't get any kind of an answer from me. I have added it as like a tier on Patreon just in case like somebody really, really wants my opinion. I put $100 tier. That's what I'll charge for like my opinion on a comic. And I'll give you as much advice as possible if you can do that. Like that is, but other than that, I just really just don't have much free time, and I wish I did. I really do. I like teaching. I've taught writing classes before, specifically writing for comics. I helped a writing center secure a grant so that they could offer that class. I taught it for several years, and I loved it. I really did. But my current job definitely takes more than like 40 hours a week, and then when you add creating comic tropes on top of it, I just don't have much time to do hardly anything else. Like, I'm only doing this commission now to help one of my best friends who's, in a financial bind. So I volunteered to do some of these. So I hope that makes sense. Definitely not trying to be rude. You can ask me if it's something simple. Like, I'll do my best to answer it. But if it's like an in-depth like opinion on what to do next, I rarely have the time to help people with that. Sorry. Maybe that'll change someday. You know, if I could do the show full time, maybe I'd be able to be in a better position to help others. But anyway. Do you find it more difficult to read everything you want? I stopped picking up books when they ended up $3.99 an issue. You know what I found is just price definitely makes a difference to an effect, but mostly I just feel that, again, time. So what I do these days is I wait to hear some feedback from like reviews, or I follow my favorite artists and writers and give that a chance. And sometimes I'll ask for the opinion at like the comic book store. So I don't get that much all the time, but I definitely try to explore new things. And the places I'll explore the most new things are actually like if I can make it to a Comic Con, I will definitely ask people like in Artist Alley, like, hey, what's this about? And take chances there, because that shows somebody that's like pretty passionate about their project and has sort of invested a lot of time and money. So I feel like that's a good place to explore ideas. It's like Artist Alley. How about all of you? Do you guys like Artist Alley, or do you tend to avoid it? Like, curious what other people do. I love Artist Alley. It's my favorite thing at a convention. But what are your favorite things at a convention? Is it seeing like a big star? Is it just hearing from, Marvel or DC, what they've got coming up? Is it getting T-shirts? What's your favorite thing about going to a comic convention? The cosplay? There's a lot of different things to like, but what's your favorite? For crap's sake, I got the NFL Super Pro comic at a flea market. Well, good. I miss the days when comic pages were still on newsprint and 35 cents an issue. I sincerely believe that comics should be initially printed on like cheaper material and possibly even in black and white at first. And then if the sales justify it, put those out in trade paperbacks and stuff with nice coloring and nice paper, and that's still pretty good value, like the stuff that we tend to sell these days in trade paperbacks. But I think that they're just a little too much to entice new readers these days. And I think that if you just made them more disposable initially, don't cater to the collector's market right away, just cater to telling a good story, I think you could do a good job. I think that, if you printed on newsprint at this point, you couldn't do good coloring techniques, but you can still print with black and white and zip-a-tone and stuff. Excuse me. Ooh, that came out of nowhere. Ugh. So I've said that several times before. I just think that would be a pretty good way to keep comic prices down, is print them initially, like on something more disposable, look into more anthologies, and then collected editions more often for the nicer print quality. Well, bless me. Let's see. Mike Becker says, love Artist's Alley, and I like panels. Panels, sure. My comic collection is pretty much where I can afford it to be for older stuff, so I cruise Artist Alley for indie stuff and art. Good. I like that. They need to start putting holographic cards on comic covers again. Yeah, well, they are fun, but I don't miss those, really. Let's see. You recently watched the Tick episode, and I learned a lot, and I was also inspired. Oh, that's so great. Guys, the nicest possible thing happened. I think you know that, like, while I do tend to try to be positive, sometimes I will review comics that I think are kind of ridiculous. And even when I like something, I'll also try to, like, share some of its weak points too. Now, The Tick, I straight up said, this is something I love, so I'm going to explain why I love it. This is all to say that, like, I don't try to just tell nice stories every week of, like, oh, isn't this wonderful? This is a great comic. No, I try to explain why I think something is good or why I think something is average. Occasionally, not every week, why something is literally bad. We can learn from all of it. Like, we can learn from that. But the Tick review was unabashedly positive because it hit me at the right time, it inspired me, and the creator was very kind. Well, the creator, Ben Edlund, saw it. He saw the YouTube video, and he tweeted about it, saying thank you. And it meant a lot to me. The guy is definitely a personal hero of mine. He's, he grew up in, like, the town near mine, and sort of, like, proved to me that, like, anyone could do what they want in a way. I was in a pretty small town south of Boston, and didn't necessarily, like, know that was an option until, like, I sort of saw someone close to my age from, like, the town over do it, and I was like, oh wow, that's amazing. It really opened up my eyes up to the world in a certain way. And so to have him say that he liked the video, just say a kind word, it meant a lot to me. I'm not doing my reviews to get a kind word from each creator, but that one meant a lot to me. So that was nice. I've had that happen once or twice, and it's nice because I try to give a balanced opinion on these things. So I wouldn't be surprised if some creator said, yeah, I mean, overall that's positive, but he did, like, knock me on this and this, so, like, F that guy. But it's pretty nice when a creator likes it like that. Can you do a Ragman show? Ragman. Yeah, I could think about it. Let's see. Ragman found his costume in the garbage. Yeah. Whoops. Just dropped something. Hold on. I keep playing with my kneaded eraser, and I just dropped it on the rug, so just taking off some fuzz. That was clumsy of me. Has Rob Liefeld blocked you on Twitter yet? Yeah, he blocked me, like, right away. Which I can understand. And at the same time, I'm like, well, come on, man. I don't think I knocked him that hard in my episodes about him. I mean, I really don't, because I said, like, here's where I have a problem with his art, but I also loved it when I was a younger kid. I felt like I was kind of fair, but yeah, he didn't care for those reviews, so that's okay. That's okay. Yeah, so that's almost the opposite of Ben Edlund from The Tick. That's like where a creator must have seen the review, and at a certain point, like, it took me a while to sort of even know that had happened, because I don't follow Rob Liefeld, but at one point somebody, like, retweeted something, and it said, like, that I couldn't read the content, and I had to, like, read, like, the replies and stuff to figure out from context. I was like, oh, this is just quoting a tweet from Rob Liefeld, and I can't see it because he's blocked me. Interesting. That's okay. Do a Skate Man episode. I will do Neil Adams at some point. Godzilla Mendoza also got blocked. Yeah, I think that Godzilla Mendoza was even more fair. I mean, I think he just mentioned Rob in passing or something, and he got blocked. So anyway, where did you buy all those gross sodas at? Oh, that's a chain of stores that just sells nothing but interesting sodas and candy. Not just gross stuff, like just like import sodas and and a little bit of import candy, mostly sodas. I'm trying to look it up right now because I want to say fizz or something. Rocket Fizz. It's called Rocket Fizz, and it is a chain. So look it up, rocketfizz.com. They may have a store somewhere near you. It's a pretty cool place. It's not humongous, but it's got a lot of really interesting things. Aside from the gross sodas that I tasted that were just basically novelty things, they also had a number of like really good things. So you may like that. I actually sent your tropes video to Rob Liefeld on Instagram. Well, he probably didn't love it. I get in a fight on Facebook with Steve Pugh about Rob Liefeld. Yeah. So see, Graphite Grappler says, I honestly like Rob's style and it inspires me. And you know what? I have no problem with that. Like, different people like different artwork. I did like it as a kid. I look at it now. I personally sort of find it lazy. I don't love it. But I get it because I did like it at one time. So I get why other people like it. There is an excitement and an energy to it. Like, it's not all bad. It's just, I think he could do better. And he's never really tried. That's my 2 cents. A lot of people would say he's definitely a better artist than me, and I'm like, well, he's certainly been published by a lot more people. He certainly has sold plenty of comics, so that may be the case. That may be. I don't know. It's bad if you can't take criticism as an artist. You should always be able to take criticism at the same time, like, sometimes people are just trying to hurt your feelings, and, there's no reason you have to take that. If, like, somebody's coming onto your social media and just calling you crap, you have every right in the world to block that. Like, I get that. I just, it's too bad that Rob thought that I was just trying to badmouth him, because I wasn't. I was trying to be fair. But if it's something that sort of like hurts his feelings, it doesn't offend me, is all I should say. It does not offend me that he blocked me. It's fine. It's totally fine. Anyway. Let's see. Atlas was created to be a third comics company, and it was supposed to compete with DC and Marvel, but it crashed and burned within a few months. Yeah, Atlas, Seagate, I believe you're talking about, was a company in, I believe it was the late 70s when that started up. And the idea was, well, first of all, it should be noted that the publisher was the former, one of the former, publishers, Big Cheese at Marvel Comics. And, he moved on. I don't know if he was let go or if he decided that he wanted to. That much I don't know yet. But he started his own company, and he knew a lot about comics, and he had a lot of industry connections. And he got some big names. He got, like, Howard Chaykin and I think Neil Adams and, like, some other big names at the time. And the thing that they did differently at Atlas was it was one of the first companies to say, if the creators make the book, they continue to own the rights to that character. So that was very that was definitely a selling point, but they just couldn't really get the distribution and the publicity, so it kind of tanked. Could be a very different story for comics in general if they had somehow pulled a few more big names to them. They could have been the Image Comics like 20 years before Image Comics. No, I don't think Atlas was run by the mob. I think you're thinking of Charlton. Charlton Comics was kind of run by the mob. They, like, the mob, coming out of, like, World War II, had a lot, they owned almost all the printing presses, okay? And the reason was they could have a legitimate business of producing all sorts of, like, magazines and stuff, and they also could counterfeit money because they had, like, the best printing capabilities out there. So they owned the the press that became Charlton, which created characters like Blue Beetle and who else? Captain Atom. Yeah, I'm sort of stumped for some of the others, but they had a number of big characters. They were still successful, but yeah, they were like run by the mob, basically, if you follow it all the way to the top. So that'll be an episode I do someday. I'll definitely do, Steve Ditko did a book for Atlas. So someday what I will do is I'll do an episode about like the history of Charlton Comics and how they were essentially owned by the mob. And then I probably will also at some point do Atlas. Although if you watch my episode about distribution, it does talk a little bit about both Atlas and Charlton in there. So if you want to like have a little more background, you're not quite sure what I'm talking about right now, I do have an episode that can get you sort of up to speed on that. It's the episode I made on distribution. What is your opinion on Frank Miller's Spawn? I didn't find it that interesting. I found it like a little bit of a letdown. I was expecting a lot more from Frank Miller at that point. I sort of just was like, meh. I wrote it off in a way. I was just like, well, they can't all be winners. I don't think I know modern comics. That's interesting. Did you know that Will Eisner wanted to make Marvel a creator-owned company when Stan Lee left as editor-in-chief when they offered him the job? I believe I have heard that before. And I can completely understand why the owners weren't exactly interested in doing that. Comics were very new at the time, so like that was a pretty revolutionary idea, apparently. But nobody really expected comics to last, you know. My episode just like 2 weeks ago about Shazam, Fawcett Comics just decided that it wasn't worth their time and money to fight DC in a lawsuit to retain the rights to their character Captain Marvel. They just were like, the sales are kind of dipping. Let's just give up. These comics are kind of a fad. Or at least the superhero comics are a fad. But at that point, comics had really only been around for less than 2 decades. Like, a little more than 10 years. Like, I don't think it had even been 15 when they decided to do that. So you sort of understand, like, why people, like, they just didn't have the objectivity to know better. It's a little heartbreaking, but you can understand where they're coming from. Any plans on coming to this June to Spokane Lilac Comic Con? Let's see, what month? June? Probably not. That sounds fun, but I don't think that that's realistic. I mean, it would be too expensive for me to travel out there. Because that's the kind of thing where it's either like, a long drive or a quick flight, but either way you're spending a couple hundred either in gas or a ticket. So no, I don't think I can make that happen. That's too bad. I would be curious to go to it someday, but now's not a time where I could realistically afford it. Cold Limit says this is his favorite or her favorite video game franchise. That's cool. That's mostly why I did it. I figured it was yours. I think in a moment what I'm going to do is I want this outfit of his to seem more militaristic, so I'm going to add some sort of what would I call the detail? Like camo. I'm going to add some camo to it. Captain Marvel was the first superhero to cross over to live action. He appeared in a movie serial in the 40s. Yep, that was in my video review. Hello, Geek Zone. All right, so Diego is 16 years old and he wants to draw for DC, but his concern is he's not good enough. Well, first of all, the great news is you're still very young, and that gives you plenty of time to work on your craft. And I don't even know where you are yet, but I'm of the opinion that some people definitely are born with a little more talent, but it's mostly because they either have like a photographic memory or they have really good control of their hand. In other words, I do think it is something that you can learn to always improve at and be better. So what I would recommend is feel free to, keep sort of drawing if you do from like your favorite comics, sort of trying to draw like them, but take some time to do some live drawing classes. All right, classes where there's like an actual human being model. And if you can't get into one or find one, then like just go to the park or go on the subway, etc., and just do your best to sketch from real life, because no matter what, you're really going to need to draw a variety of everything and not just people. You're going to have to draw like architecture and vehicles and stuff like that. So the more you can draw from real life, the more it'll give you the foundation to draw well. And then your style will emerge naturally no matter what. Just try to draw what you see. I promise it will help you. I promise it's work. If you want to be an artist, that's the work part of it, okay? That's the work part. I binged all your videos in 1 week. That's amazing. Honestly, at this point in time, I guess I thought that it might take longer than that. But thank you for watching. Appreciate it. Appreciate it very much. Just sort of drawing fun stuff at this point. But the trick is trying not to create bad tangents, which I almost did there. Tangents are when lines seem to line up even though they're not supposed to, and it creates like, it's distracting. Let's see. Do you make your own comics? I have. I don't have time these days to do anything. But I have done a lot of self-published and indie stuff. The last thing I did was this past, in 2018, I just did a pinup for a friend's book that was like a Kickstarter, and that was honestly more of a favor to me. My friend Jeremy passed away a number of years ago and had an unfinished comic, and his widow Kelly published it, and I was like, look, it would mean a lot to me if I was able to contribute a pinup or something. Is that something there's room for? And fortunately she was really gracious and was like, yes, absolutely. And I was very flattered and humbled that I was able to do that, because I miss Jeremy, and he was a great friend. Who is your favorite comic book artist, Chris? Jim Lee is my fave. My favorite. Do you work at the interstate with that black and green shirt you wear? No, I don't. Wait, what was the question? Oh, my favorite artist. It varies depending on like the day. But honestly, John Romita Jr. is way up there. So is Will Eisner. some of my friends I really admire. Tony Moore, Nate Bellegarde, they really inspire me. I'll read anything by Sean Phillips. He's got just sort of a dark style that really appeals to me in a massive way. So it's hard to say, it really all depends. People are mentioning, have you heard Schwarzenegger's in talks to make a King Conan? Yeah, well, he's been pitching that idea for decades, so it could work, but will it happen? I have no idea. I have not much faith in it. We'll see, though. It could definitely work. All-Star Superman is great. Yeah, it is, Brian. I hear a cat. Oh, of course you do, Gene. That's Milo. Everybody can hear it? All right. We'll let Milo in. Every once in a while, Milo likes to make a guest appearance. I'll be right back, folks. Hi. Do you want to come in? It's up to you. All right. All right, everybody, I'm coming back. We've got a special guest with us, Milo the whiny cat. This is Milo. You gonna look at the camera? This is my buddy. And he sometimes gets sad when he can't be with me, which is kind of sweet. Definitely makes you feel good to have a kitty like you this much. So he's sitting on my lap right now and purring up a storm. I'm definitely a cat nerd, folks. I love my cat. Hey, bud. So we'll see. Do you want to be in this camera? You want to say hello here? No? Okay. You want to say hello to the folks up here? Hello. Is there a specific comic creator that has been your favorite to meet in person? Oh, cool question. Let me think. I've had a number of great experiences. As a kid, I met Ben Edlund, creator of The Tick, and that meant a lot to me. This is a cat. Oh, wait. This is a flurkin. Oh my gosh. It's a flurkin. You know what? I had a great experience with someone as a teenager, and I have no idea who the creator was. So I'll explain real quick. Maybe I've told this story before, so I'll try to keep it quick. But basically, I was in something like 7th grade, and I went to a convention in Boston to see Todd McFarlane. He was pretty new and popular and stuff, and he was... my friend and I got in line and waited in line for 2 hours. We finally got up front to see him, and they were like, "Do you have a ticket?" And I was like, "Ticket? No one told us about a ticket." And they were like, "Oh, well, yeah, I mean, it's free, but you had to get a ticket to get in line, and we're doing, like, numbers 1 through 1,000. I was like, "Well, we didn't know. We've been waiting for 2 hours." And Todd goes, "Nope, can't help you." And I was like, kind of devastated. I was like 13 years old or something, and I was like really depressed that I just missed out on my opportunity to see who I went to the convention to see, because you only had the one shot. He was just doing the signings for a while. They weren't giving out tickets anymore, we later found out. And I was really upset. And I was like so upset that I was like almost ready to give up on comics, kind of upset. And my friend and I decided grudgingly to listen to some of Todd McFarlane's panel, which he started like literally like right after he said no to us. He was like, I got to go do a panel, everybody, in just the room right next to us, and then I'll come back to signing. And we were like, well, let's at least see the panel. Maybe that'll make us feel better. Anyway, we go into the panel. We sit in the back because we're like not sure if we're going to stay for long. And some guy comes up behind us and is only a few years older than us, you know, a fairly young guy, but he works in comics. And he was like, oh, what are you guys into? Blah, blah, blah. And let's see. He tells us that he's doing something for Marvel. He's doing like a... what was it? Like, it was a Punisher Daredevil story. And I've never been 100% sure of exactly which story it was. So I've never confirmed exactly whether it was like the writer or the artist. I'm so upset that I don't know this because he was so nice and he would just like, he answered a bunch of questions my friend and I had about like comics and stuff like that. And he was just really friendly. And he sort of won me back over like, oh, okay, some people in comics are still like really cool and nice. And what year was this? Whatever year Spider-Man #1 came out by Todd McFarlane. And I don't know, like, so like, you know, the question originally, just to like recapitulate, was, you know, like, who was the nicest that I've ever met at a convention? Well, in a way, it was whoever this guy was, whose name I don't know. Like, I've never been 100% sure of who I spoke to that day. He probably did tell me, but I was a young kid and I didn't know that many names in the industry, and I quickly sort of forgot. But like, you know, I've continued to love comics, and he really sort of kept my passion for comics going that day. I really wish I knew who it was. That's all I can say. I really wish I knew who it was. It was probably 1990. It could have been 91, but I think it was 1990. Anyway, like, honestly, like, for the most part, everybody I've met at a convention has been amazing. But, yeah, I wish I knew. That's all. I just wish I knew who had been so nice to me that day and answered questions about comics and sort of reignited my passion for it single-handedly. That guy's kind of a hero. And he wasn't even trying. I mean, you know, he's just like talking comics. And it was nice. That's all. Spawn was late 92, early 93. Yeah, Image Comics was 92. This was before that. It was before Image Comics. It was whenever, like, only Spider-Man #1 had come out, not like Spider-Man #2 or anything. So that was either 90 or 91. I don't remember exactly, but it was somewhere in that range. Trust me, I've looked. I've seen a couple sort of Daredevil, Punisher projects that came out roughly in that sort of time frame. I've just never been 100% sure of who I talked to that day. I just can't remember enough details to confirm it. Oh well, you know, my loss, and it is a loss. My cat's just sort of walking around down by my feet, like at least he's not crying. Milo, do you want to be on TV again? TV. I'm so old-fashioned. Do you want to be on TV? Let's see. Did you ever meet C.J. Henderson? No, can't say that I have. What's your opinion on tracing as practice? Does it take away from unique style? I would say there are things you can learn. Because you're recreating a form. It's just that you're not sort of like, you're not engaging certain parts of your brain, if that makes sense. But there are things you can learn, so it's not bad. And I'm not completely against it as a shortcut if you're like, a working professional and you're like, you know what, I need to get a particular building or car right for this panel. I don't begrudge an artist for trying to save a little bit of time by tracing an actual object. Just don't be like Greg Land when you trace. Yeah, there's a difference, there's a difference between using reference and just tracing constantly. It's a fine line. But it isn't inherently evil or anything like that. So this drawing's kind of coming along. I don't think it's too bad. Hopefully the person that commissioned it will agree, but I'm kind of happy with it. I wish I knew the character a little better. Like I say, I have played a couple of the games, but I don't feel like I'm quite an expert in everything Metal Gear Solid. But anyway, do you have any costumes for a cosplay? I don't. Am I reading any new comics? Yeah. Let's see. My Hero Academia and Criminal by Brubaker and Phillips. I still read all the Skybound stuff because I proofread it. So things like Assassination and that. I'm reading. I'm kind of actually, now that I think of it, I'm way behind on Saga by Vaughn. I need to catch up on that, and I really want to read Immortal Hulk since so many people are talking well about it. Would you consider attending Long Beach Comic-Con this year or LA Comic-Con? I would love to. I love visiting LA. I'll probably visit LA for a long weekend, but in terms of going to a convention, down there, it's unlikely right now. I just can't really afford it. Go to a con dressed as a YouTuber. Yeah, I that's something I might be able to pull off. C.J. Henderson was Erica Henderson's father. Oh, I didn't realize. Jeff is trying to decide what comic to have John Byrne sign. So if anybody has a suggestion, throw it out. I think my favorite John Byrne stuff is still his X-Men work. I also liked what he did on Superman in 86. That was pretty good. Daredevil and the Punisher Child's Play is from 1988. Yeah, I think that's too early. So I don't think that was it. Because it was something that he was about to have done. And it was 1990 or 1991. If you kill Infotron and haul him out, you can wear his skin as a cosplay costume. Wear Infotron? Come on. I could never do that to that adorable character that we all know and love. Who's one of my biggest inspirations? Oh, that's an interesting question, Rabbit. Who's one of my biggest inspirations? I mean, this might sound cheesy, but I will say, my dad always inspired me because it felt like he was a really hard worker that could, focus, and in a way that I just struggle to have that same sort of focus. So my father definitely is an inspiration. I would say that, in terms of artists, who inspires me? Brubaker and Phillips inspire me. When I was younger, the Image guys inspired me. Not as much now. What made me want to start writing? Oh, that's cool. Yeah, like I was gonna say like authors have sort of always inspired me. I like a lot of the classical authors. I like reading stuff like Shakespeare and Charles Dickens. I like read a lot of sci-fi as a kid too. Some of it's not really coming to me, but Isaac Asimov was definitely one of them. It's hard to remember now. Yep, my sister inspires me. Yeah, you do sometimes. You do sometimes inspire me. You worked really, really hard to get your degree and get like amazing grades. So, like, I'm not joking about that. That was impressive. All right, see you, CBM Reviews. What made me want to start writing? I just never don't have an idea, if that makes sense. I like always have ideas in my head. So you just have to get them out. I don't know what else to say. I just always have ideas. Just gonna do some shoelaces here. Whee! Shoelaces. This is actually naked snake. Oh, like I said, I'm not an expert on the whole mythology of this. I'm just doing my best. What's the difference between this guy and Solid Snake? It's too confusing. Okay. Then forget that I asked. Seriously. A clone. Oh my gosh, forget it. Solid is a clone of Naked. It gets complicated. Well, how do you then? If it's a clone, doesn't he look the same? I don't know. Does he wear a different outfit on Tuesdays or something? I'm Naked Snake. You're gonna dislike my video and unsubscribe because I like Shakespeare. Okay. That's a choice. Are you putting color on that? I haven't decided. I haven't decided yet. I'm thinking of it, but I'm also sort of wondering if I maybe just want to do it in grays. That's like a thing that I love to do, is sort of cover something in shades of gray. So I'm just trying to decide right now. I'm open to opinions on what I should do. Whether I should color this, not color it, or color it in grays. Please do. Have I read any Fantastic Four issues by John Byrne? I have, quite a few. His run on Fantastic Four was great. It really was. It felt a lot like the Lee Kirby stuff, and in a good way. I think though my favorite run of Fantastic Four is Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. Second might be the Walt Simonson run. It's pretty weird and cool. Then after that, the Jonathan Hickman era was pretty dope. gray tones with a little selective red highlighting. Ooh, that's interesting. Call it snow camo, and his skin is white because his blood sugar is low and he needs a snack. Yeah, I like that. Yeah. His blood sugar is low and he needs a solid snack. I don't have a mic to drop, but he needs a solid snack. Come on, folks. That was great. Am I going to watch Endgame? Yeah, I already got my tickets. I'm definitely going to watch it. No, I'm just going to assume that Thanos won and that's that. It just ends there. I don't know the anime manga Mob Psycho 100. Sorry. Thoughts on Simon Beasley? I've been getting into his crazy 90s style. Love that guy in the 90s, man. I loved the Lobo paramilitary Christmas special. I loved that thing. If you haven't read it, that's a pretty funny book. Lobo's hired to take out Santa by the Easter Bunny. You can only do that with certain characters, but Lobo's one of them. Lobo is sort of like, before we had Deadpool, we had Lobo, and Lobo's definitely sort of like meaner, nastier, but he was just sort of like a wise crack and like, it was pretty R-rated comic. That's not bad, right? I don't know. I think that's not too bad. What do you think, Milo? He's totally chill now that he can be in the room with me. He's basically just fallen asleep after howling and howling. Thought it was maybe because he was hungry. Nope. Dude just likes hanging around with me. C.J. Henderson wrote the Punisher story around the time of your story. Really? Let me look it up. That's interesting. That's interesting. DC should set up Green Lantern and Lobo movies as their cosmic entries. Yeah, well, they could. I don't think... I think DC has completely given up on its idea of having sort of like a dedicated, connected universe. I mean, not saying that they won't have some movies cross over a little bit, but, if you let Superman and Batman go, like those actors, obviously they don't have much plans for more, like Justice League type stuff. I think Aquaman, Wonder Woman, and Shazam all did well, and that just sort of shows you, if they had taken their time and made movies like that initially, then people want to see, like, Justice League. Like, yeah, give me Shazam and Aquaman and Wonder Woman. Like, I don't necessarily care about Batman and Superman. They could be big, awesome characters to introduce down the road. Wow. But they were impatient, and they rushed it, and they screwed it all up. They got their main characters just not completely wrong, but definitely a version that overall people weren't too excited about. I mean, when Aquaman makes way more money than any of your like Superman or Batman movies, I do feel like you've done something wrong overall. Because it isn't like the world was out there howling like, give me more Aquaman! It's not a thing. If DC made a Lobo movie, it would be rated G. Well, I don't know. Hello, Merritt. Let's see. French robot Simon Beasley, Kevin Eastman, and Brian Talbot worked on a sci-fi series. I got to see the original art. That's cool. Yeah, I agree with you, Hunter. I think he did project some of his Randian beliefs onto those characters that it just doesn't make much sense. Like, Superman is very self-sacrificing. Like he loves humanity, and he loves sort of helping others that aren't in as good a spot. He's that's who he is. So I don't think they got that right. Let's see, other questions. Hello, Pineapple. It would be cool if they made a Flash movie. Yeah, it would, but also, like, maybe people are, what do I do? People are burned out on the Flash a little, I think, now that they've had the TV show now. What do you do if you mess up while inking? You've got a couple options. You can white it out and start over. You could do a patch, which is like drawing a little bit on another piece of paper and putting it over it. Or what I personally do, because I'm not happy with absolutely everything here, if I was intending this for a print, I'd scan it, I'd go into Photoshop, and I'd touch it up digitally. That's what I would do. It's nice that you've got options these days, honestly. So I'm going to use my kneaded eraser for just a moment, clearing up some of the pencil line work that I had underneath all of this. Let me make it into a ball. Rob Liefeld's voice, you're talking too long. You're taking too long on that foot. Oh, okay. Wow. Sorry, Rob. We all have our own way of doing things, right? See, I actually feel like I was not done with it. Anyway. Alright, so this is a kneaded eraser, and it's a great way of erasing pencil marks, and it basically does not smudge archival ink on nice paper. So you can get smudges with erasers from like normal pencils and stuff like that, but a kneaded eraser just works a little differently. It just tends to pick that up without making smudges. So that's kind of fun to just, you probably can't quite see as much of the pencil work that I can, but it matters to me. It's like I'm vacuuming over a pile of sand. I just see it like disappear. It's kind of amazing. So I think I will color this, and I think I'll color it in actual color, but his suit will be grays. So what I need to do is find sort of the right colors for a few things. So I'm gonna like put this as like a darkish blue. Almost everything else will be shades of gray. So just taking a look at what I've got. Might use the cool thing you can do with Copics, I've mentioned before, you can blend them. So that's pretty dope. Whoa! Thank you so much, Pineapple. That is so nice of you. A super chat. Do you think Grant Morrison's Arkham Asylum is an Elseworlds story? Probably. Well, at this point, I mean, we're into the New 52 and then Rebirth, so I think definitely. But was it originally intended to be? That is an interesting question. I do think that the Killing Joke is an Elseworlds story, even though they ended up using like the Joker crippling Barbara Gordon in the regular continuity. I do think that was an Elseworld story. I also think that Arkham Asylum was an Elseworld story in that same vein. Finally, I think that story where, like Son of the Demon, I think it was, where Batman and Talia got together, I think that was an Elseworld story. But elements of all three things made their way into the regular continuity. Anyway, I really appreciate the super chat. That's super, super kind and super, super appreciated. So thank you. That's very generous. Every little bit helps these days. Well, every day, you know. But yeah, just know that it's appreciated. Interesting question. And honestly, the ultimate answer is it's sort of like up to the individual reader to decide. But I give you my interpretation. But ultimately, it's up to each viewer to determine what's in continuity and what isn't. I love what they're doing with Red Hood. That's cool. I recently read one of the most disappointing comics of the year. I expected a lot from Freedom Fighters, but issue 2's cover actually lies about what the comic is about. Well, that's sort of a ongoing technique, huh? That's too bad. That's too bad. All right, now I will use this for some flesh tones. And overall, it is good to use short strokes on stuff like this because it actually can blend just the tiniest bit with the ink. So if you go too fast, you can actually smear it together and get sort of a blotchiness that's just not attractive at all. I'm already worried that I'm getting some, but I'm trying to take my time so that it looks as good as I can make it. And I'll look up in a moment to see what kind of rad chats are getting thrown out there. Let's see. There was a terrible TV series based on... Okay, I don't know what that's about. Don't forget the basics of CQC. All continuities and headcanons are valid. Some are just more defensible than others. Yeah, that's a pretty fair statement. I think that's a fair way of looking at things. I gotta say, you guys are smart and kind in general, so very grateful for the viewers that I've sort of picked up over the last couple of years. Thank you very much. It's inspirational. Whoa! Pineapple just sent a $20 super chat. Last one. My girlfriend and I were discussing what our favorite MCU movie was. Hers was between Captain Marvel and Thor the Dark World. Mine was Thor Ragnarok. So far, what is your favorite MCU movie? Cool question. My personal favorite is Captain America Winter Soldier. I like sort of spy thrillers and that kind of Cold War paranoia type stuff mixed with good action. So that movie really worked for me, but there's a number that really worked for me. I did think that Ragnarok was hilarious. I thought that, what else did I really like? Guardians of the Galaxy was really well done, and so was Avengers 1 and 3. So, you know, anyway, just thank you so much for that generous super chat. It's really kind of you. I sincerely appreciate it a lot. So, just know that. Let's see. I just need to figure out a color here. Let's see if this is the right one. Yep. Stop it. Milo's meowing at me now because now he is hungry, I think. But I'm working. I'm talking to all of you. He's going to have to take a back seat, and that's all there is to it, bud. I always feed you. A lot of people talking about some of the different Captain America and Marvel movies that they like. Awesome. In general, like out of everything that Marvel's made, I think that I do like the Captain America series the most. It just I think that they really did a great job with getting the character of Captain America correct, and of like all the sort of like romances that go across the various movies. I definitely believe in the Steve Rogers, the Agent Carter romance the most. Yeah, I don't know. Just something really works for me about that one. And, yeah. But in general, I've been able to enjoy pretty much all the Marvel movies. I think that, like, Iron Man 2, Incredible Hulk, and Avengers 2 are a little lower on my list. I guess also, like, Thor 2. They're a little lower on my list than the rest. But everybody has to, like, rank everything somewhere if you're going to sit down and take the time to rank it. So, I can rewatch any of them if they're on TV. I mean, I guess I don't have TV right now, but I can rewatch any of them. Does Daredevil count as part of the MCU? I think that's my favorite. Yeah, I think it counts. I mean, it is loosely connected, and I did like Daredevil quite a bit, actually. So all I have here is a gray, but when I throw it on top of the other colors, it just helps make them a little darker, which I think works pretty well. Yeah. Yeah. Favorite Daredevil comic? That is tough. I would say Born Again ultimately is my favorite overall Daredevil story. But what else is good? Man Without Fear. Really almost anything that Frank Miller wrote on Daredevil. Pretty damn great. So, yeah. Road to Perdition was a great comic movie. It was. Yeah. Sometimes people forget movies like that are comic book movies. But there's a lot of good non-superhero comic book movies out there. Persepolis is a one that I think is really impressive. I think Ghost World is pretty great. I'm talking non-superhero comic book movies now. What else is a really good one? History of Violence is a comic book. What else? I feel like there've probably been some more recent ones too that I'm not thinking of right now off the top of my head. But if any of you can think of a non-superhero comic book movie, throw it out here. We can discuss its merits or lack thereof. What's your opinion on Immortal Hulk? Haven't read the whole thing yet. Read a couple. Well, I shouldn't say read a couple. Flipped through a couple issues in the store, and it looks cool. I definitely want to read that. It looks really dope. I like horror, and it looks like it's got like a horror sort of tinge to it. So, yeah, I definitely want to read Immortal Hulk. And in general, I really have always liked the Hulk. I really enjoyed Peter David's run. That was a book I always looked forward to reading. Men in Black. Okay, yep, that was a super Wanted. Let's see. Dame to Kill For, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles are sort of superheroes. I didn't see the new Pet Sematary. I was really hoping to see it today. Just a little too much to do, unfortunately. Couldn't fit it in. So, sometime in the future. Let me see here. I'm gonna switch up my colors, my little colors. What are you meowing about? You got a good life. From Hell. Yep. Not a great movie, in my opinion. Great comic. Are you still reading manga? Some. I really enjoy My Hero Academia every month. Lock and Key Netflix show. Any thoughts? Love the Lock and Key comic. Awesome comic. One of my all-time favorites. Love it, love it, love it. Just really, really hope the TV show can do it justice. I'll just, I might take a little more to be won over than the average person, because I thought that was a pretty terrific comic. That's all. I like this in black and white, but it really pops in color. Well, thanks. We'll see where it keeps going, We'll see where it goes. But I do enjoy using Copics. They're really fun. And if you're really talented with them, you can blend them almost like paint. I'm not necessarily that good, being just realistic here, but they're definitely cool. They're definitely cool. I think when I have to color, that I get better results personally with coloring in Photoshop digitally. Hello, Ryan. Hello, Care Bear Comics. I don't know the Dummy Thick meme, sorry. American Splendor is a great comic book movie without superheroes. Totally right. I really like American Splendor. And of course, that makes me think of like a documentary like Crumb. That's a really interesting movie about a really weird guy. Yeah. All right, let me see here. I'm going to start with a really light gray, and we'll just sort of darken it as needed as I continue through this piece. Anybody playing any interesting video games these days? I love games, but I don't have a lot of time for it right now. I think that's a recurring thread with me, right? Not enough time to do certain things, but I'm still curious, like what's good that's out there these days. I'm still curious. The Division 2 looks pretty cool. All right, let's start getting darker. Well, no, you know what? I've got shoelaces down here, so whoop. Gonna color them. You can barely see it, but I think it'll be more obvious once everything is colored. I think that it'll stand out a little bit more. So try to add some grays down there. Who hasn't remember Mystery Men? Yeah, Mystery Men. XCOM 2 for about 2 years. I've been replaying Injustice 2 for Hellboy and TMNT. Sure, let's see. Mystery Men was funny. Let's see. What else? I don't have a lot of games, but my go-to while I'm listening music or watching some videos is some old COD. Oh, Call of Duty. Call of Duty, right. Fritz the Cat. The 9 Lives of Fritz the Cat. I got a Fritz the Cat t-shirt, by the way. Yeah. Fritz the Cat. That was an interesting comic, to say the least, right? All right, let's use the hell out of C3. Cool gray number 3. I think that this will be a good one to lay across most of the patterning here, and then I can ultimately go back and darken it with whatever the next stage up is. All right, so we'll just sort of start here. So, how many of y'all did go see Shazam this past weekend? Because I thought it was quite well done. Love your content. Dude, thank you. Favorite Cobra. Is that like as in like G.I. Joe? If you're talking G.I. Joe, my favorite Cobra is probably Destro. Destro or Zartan. I really liked both of those guys because they were way more competent than anybody else. And each of them actually sort of had a code of honor, more or less. Zartan a lot less so, actually. But he was still... They're both sort of leaders that, like, still worked for Cobra Commander. I always found that interesting. Yeah, this is working. I think once we get a few tones of gray in here, this is going to look pretty dope. We'll see. Squeaky. I haven't been a big fan of DC movies, but I do want to see Shazam. It's cool, man. I liked it. I thought it was pretty well done. Shazam ended up being like good because it was like it was about a hero actually learning to be heroic. And I'm not saying that as a spoiler. What I'm saying is that like a lot of movies about superheroes can devolve into just like, well, that guy's a bad guy, and I just want to like, I'll just have to punch him enough times to stop him. And this was more about like the motivation to do the right thing than just stopping the bad guy. Like there is a bad guy, but it's more about, a little hard to describe, I guess, but like, yeah, it's about the motivation behind doing the right thing. And so I like that. I thought that was pretty cool. They had some good themes. Right on. I can dig it. Right on. You know what would be a cool movie? I was just going to say like a cool movie to like remake, but you know what? Maybe it wouldn't make sense anymore. The Warriors. You ever see that? That's like I don't know if it was late 70s or early 80s, but basically just like about a gang in New York trying to get back to their home turf, like from the middle of New York, and having to fight like all sorts of gangs on the way back home. So it was actually kind of a lot like if you want to go like sort of classic literature, like Homer's. Am I thinking of the Iliad or the Odyssey, actually? So much for being such a literary scholar. I can't quite remember what I'm thinking of. I like that scene in the boardroom during Shazam. Yeah, that was pretty cool. Warriors, come out and play. Yeah, everybody knows that. Odyssey. Okay. We don't really have the same, like, first of all, if you see that movie, the gangs are kind of cartoony. Like, there were never cartoony gangs like that. But there was such a thing as, like, hundreds of small gangs that each, like, had a block or so to themselves at that point in time in New York. So, like, that part of it was kind of plausible. These days, not so much, but you could still end up with something pretty interesting, I think, if you tried to make an adaptation. I don't know what made me think of the Warriors now. Like, how did I come up with that out of all things? We were talking about Shazam, I think, and then all of a sudden I'm talking about Warriors? Wow. What a random memory. Anyway, if you haven't seen it, it is a pretty fun movie. It's not very deep, but it moves at a really good clip, so you won't get bored. There was a video game of the Warriors. Yeah, there was, and they got most of the original cast back to do the voices, so that was pretty cool. And it was a Rockstar game, and they generally wasn't it? I think it was a Rockstar game, if I'm remembering right. And they generally tend to make pretty good games. I don't remember everything about the video game, but I remember that I liked it. It was just fun to sort of like revisit that world. This is when it's fun to have people in a chat room, because what I'm doing right now is kind of mindless in a way. It's not mindless. I mean, you're making decisions at a certain point to, like, you know, to shade stuff, but it's not like a deep thinker right now. So like having other people to chat with like makes a big difference. So I just want to say that I'm grateful. I'm very grateful. What about a remake of Clockwork Orange? Yeah, I was like, I don't think you can improve. I don't think you can improve on it. I don't think you can improve on any Stanley Kubrick movie, to be honest. I just don't. I can't. I'm trying to think through them. And it's like I would not want to see 2001 remade. I would not want to see The Shining remade, which it has been, but not to great effect, in my opinion. Maybe 2001. I mean, maybe it'd be different. Thinking of movies that should never be remade, I always worry they'll remake The Princess Bride. That's a good point. That's a tough one to think of them doing that any better. I lost track of all the sequels they made to Highlander. Oh, jeez. Less said about those sequels, the better. Not a single one of those did anything for Highlander. And the first Highlander, I think holds up very well. Is a pretty good movie. Not great. Pretty good, though. Very fun. Clancy Brown was awesome in that one. The Kurgan, that's a memorable villain. That's a really memorable villain. Hi, cat. What else? Clockwork Orange has so much going on visually in terms of symbolism. Yeah, that's the thing. Stanley Kubrick is such a perfectionist that every shot in his movies has so much going on. It's really hard to imagine somebody coming up with anything more clever or more dense or with more meaning than how he approached any of his films. None of them were phoned in. None of them were something that he wasn't passionate about. Some of them you might like less than others, but I think all of Kubrick's movies have something really good to recommend them. Some people might not like Barry Lyndon too much in terms of the story or the acting. I can sometimes get that, but in terms of the visuals, that movie is gorgeous. Yeah, Milo agrees. It's gorgeous. I can talk about film forever. Or I could just shut up. Hello, Mandela Butterfly. Christine should never be remade. Really? Christine? That actually, I'd be okay with a remake. There's actually a lot of Stephen King movies that I'd be totally fine with them remaking. Even ones that have had decent adaptations, I think that there's still plenty that could be done with a lot of it. All right, let's see. So that was C3 for most of this. I'm going to jump 2 forward to C5 to get a good contrast going and see what happens here. Not Shawshank Redemption. That's true. AI was Kubrick's worst movie. Well, AI was really more of a Spielberg movie in the end. So I don't really blame him for that. Who knows how he would have seen it all the way through, Bedtime. See you, Sheldon. Thanks for joining. Hello, Miles. Hello, J.K. Siege. Nice that people are still jumping in. Do you think Batman Hush is the best Batman story? No, I definitely don't. Let's see, the best Batman story. That's not an easy question to answer, though. Let's see, what's the best Batman story? Whew. Well, for me, I would say Batman Year One is my personal favorite. Yeah, I think that there's a lot about it that works for me. So I think ultimately the Batman Year One. But definitely curious what other people have to say is their favorite Batman story. They made a TV version of The Shining, more like the book. Still prefer Kubrick's. Yep, totally agree. I asked this in the Discord. Which is better, Captain Marvel or The Long Kiss Goodnight? Better Christmas movie, Die Hard or Shazam? Okay. Long Kiss Goodnight is better than Captain Marvel. And then better Christmas movie is definitely Die Hard. It's sort of important that movie is set at Christmas. For Shazam, it's really just a setting, which is fine, but I don't think that they really have themes or story elements that necessarily come into play. Like anything that happened there, like could have taken place at it could have easily still been a Thanksgiving story or even like an Easter story, like, Halloween. Could have really worked as any of those. But that's just my opinion. Do you collect any certain things? Not much these days. What do I collect? I collect some of the Hot Toys figures of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. That's kind of a nice curated collection that I like because I can never get them all, so that's how I curate it. I can't justify buying them all. That's too expensive. So I have fun with it. What I sort of try to do is just get one of each of the main characters. Actually, not always the villains. You want to get out? I'll let you out. It's up to you, cat. You know what? I think I'm going to use this color of gray for the boots, I just realized. Yeah, so as soon as I finish coloring this bit of camo here, I can jump down below and color this in. What other questions are there? Hot Toys are amazing. I love them. Here's the problem. I don't have a place to display them. My fiance and I are renting the place we're at, and so they're all sort of just boxed up in my garage, and it's kind of frustrating, like, to have something and not be able to share it, like, let other people see it at least. So I'd love to get some nice IKEA glass cases at some point, but first we need to be able to get an actual house so that I know that I've got an area that's for my stuff. Yeah. But aside from that, I really don't collect anything else these days. I don't even really consider myself much of a comics collector because I sold all my comics for the most part when I moved across the country 5+ years ago. So I don't even have that many comics anymore. I used to have a lot, but not anymore. What do you guys collect aside from comics? Because I think everybody in here probably likes comics on some level, so that wouldn't be a surprise to hear that you collect those. But what else, if anything, do you collect? Definitely curious to hear. Who's your favorite Robin? Tim Drake. I really like Tim Drake. And I like Dick Grayson, but I like him as Nightwing. Did I ever read the Metal Gear Solid comic? No. I'll be honest, I actually did not know that there was a Metal Gear Solid comic book. So that's news to me. Huh. A Metal Gear Solid comic book. I'll never sell my comics. I want to be buried with them. Action figures, statues. Oh, Milo has decided to make another appearance. Hello. Sure, buddy. Why don't you just... I'm going to cap my marker so I don't make them. My cat has decided to explore areas that he really shouldn't be in. He could definitely knock stuff over right now. So if you see me go black, it's because my cat knocked over... some poster board that I have blocking the light from the window. I collect action figures like a madman, a lot of lines, but especially TMNT. Nice. Same artist from the game art. Oh, I like that. Ashley Wood, huh? I have action figures too, some of them customized. For me as well, never selling my comics. I'm going to be buried in a long box. I used to think that too, but... I sold them, and it's kind of nice in some ways not to have that that sort of responsibility anymore. Hold on, I'm going to let my cat out of the room. Yeah? All right. There you go. All right. So he begged to come in, and then he begged to get out. That's pets for you, right, folks? I have a small sword collection. Ooh. Do you know the proper way to display a samurai sword? All right, we are moving along. We're moving and grooving, and hooving and schnooving, maybe a little bit of pooving, but mostly good grooving. Boop. Boop, boop, boop. Boop. What am I humming? Oh, I think years ago Chrissy made me a theme song for like doing reviews. Just popped in my head. How wonderful. Whoa, Pineapple, you're so generous today. I collect Marvel Legends figs and Pops. My girlfriend collects Pops as well. She has 87 of them. Oh my God. Wow. Wow. That is a lot. That is amazing. And I know that's probably not even hard to do considering how many Pops there are out there. I live not too far from Funko Pop's headquarters, and they've got like a massive store And while I don't collect Pops, I've been to their store a couple times just because it's really fun and charming. They've done a lot. It's almost like a Disney level store or something. It's just got so much to it, and they've got, I don't know, it's just a really amazing, impressive place. That's all. All right. So now I'm going to use my darkest for what I'm doing on this. I'm not going to go any darker than this, but I'll use this to fill in most of the rest of the camo. And then whatever's left, I'm going to go in with a lighter shade. But I didn't want to use too much of the lightest shade. But I will use this on the rubber soles of this character's boots. So I thought that this was Solid Snake, but now y'all are telling me that it's Naked Snake, and all I can think is, like, I hope that since this is a commission, the person accepts it and likes it, because I'm doing the best I can. Ew. I really botched this one. Ew. I have a few prop weapons. I have an Alien's pulse rifle and a Conan sword. That's pretty dope. J. Andrew World says that he misread Pops as poops. Yeah, I collect poops. I was in Target the other day, and they have a game called, I can't remember exactly what it's called, but like it's all based on like flushing a toilet, and the catchphrase on it said, "Poops, there it is." And like, meanwhile, two cartoon kids are trying to gleefully grab a hold of a poop that's flying out of the toilet. It's pretty disgusting, actually. I know that little kids are kind of amused by bodily function stuff more than the rest of us. They're like fascinated, but maybe we should like teach them to be properly horrified of feces, because it's not exactly cute when somebody grabs a poop. It's like, oh, that could get you very sick. Time to put that down. Just my 2 cents. Solid never wore BDUs. Oh. Okay. Well, I guess I didn't know that when I drew it. Oops. Could he have, theoretically at least? Or is there a reason why Solid Snake would never have worn this kind of a uniform? Like, if he's a clone, like, he's still a soldier of some sort, right? Is he like a mercenary, maybe? Trying to figure out the differences. Mandela, thank you so much. Seen any good movies or shows lately? Yeah, I have. Let me think. Well, I've mentioned this a couple times tonight. I saw Shazam, and I thought it was pretty darn good. I definitely recommend it. It leaves you feeling good, and it's fun, and it's pretty funny. Yeah, overall, very good movie. Little corny, a little cheesy, but it knows that it is, and I think it executes it well. Anyway, TV shows I recently discovered on Amazon Prime, Catastrophe, which I guess is like a 4-season long sitcom, and I guess it is sort of like a rated R sitcom, because there's lots of, sex, and there's lots of, swearing and stuff, but nothing that I would consider really offensive. just probably not for kids. But that was pretty funny to discover. Rob Delaney and Sharon Horgan, two very funny people. So I'm late to the party on that one. I guess that's been out for quite a while. Like I say, there's 4 seasons of it. That was a cool discovery. What other TV or off the top of my head, there's nothing else like leaping out to me. I don't have TV, so I have Netflix, I have YouTube, and I have Amazon Prime. That's about all I've got. Your live streams are better than going to a psychiatrist. That's very kind of you. I have not watched season 2 of The Tick yet. I want to. Did you do an Akira comic tropes? Not yet. I definitely will this year. Reason I haven't yet is Cartoonist Kayfabe is another YouTube channel that I respect that covers comics, and they are currently doing like a multi-part analysis of all of Katsuhiro Otomo's work. And I basically like talked to them, and I found out like what their schedule was, and I decided I didn't want to step on their toes and potentially split the audience of fans, comic fans that are interested in this stuff. So for now anyway, I'll be doing it later in the year, but I will do it in 2019. I'll cover Akira. I bought myself the 30th anniversary box set, which is amazing, and I rewatched the movie just like about 2 weeks ago. It was held up perfectly. Just amazing. Just amazing. So yeah, I will cover that, but I haven't yet. I'm finally sitting down and watching all of Babylon 5. You know what? I've never watched Babylon 5. Yeah. But I have heard good things about it from several people, so more power to you. Getting close to done on this, but I will add some shading as well. Right now I'm just sort of coloring it in, but I've decided I'll also add some shading. Alright. That's most of it, but now I'm going to jump down to like a 2, fill in this. So that was a cool question. What about the rest of you? Has anybody else discovered any good movies or TV lately? It doesn't have to be something that's currently in theaters or airing, just so much as you've discovered it recently. And if you've got a recommendation for TV or film, throw it out right now. And let's hear what it's about. Babylon 5. I couldn't believe it when I found out J. Michael Straczynski did a lot of Captain Power. Yeah, I remember that. DuckTales. Yeah, I haven't seen DuckTales. That does look cool. I absolutely love the Netflix show The Santa Clarita Diet. Oh, okay. Well, I've always had a small crush on Drew Barrymore, so maybe I should check that out. getting close to filling in those blank areas. Did I do it? I think I did it. I did it. I did it. So I'll do that, and I'll just swap to this guy for this last little bit here. Alright, now I'll switch to a much lighter one to do a few highlights, or shadows really. Does anyone own the Metal Gear figures? Didn't McFarlane nuke them? Make them? Not sure. Money Heist was good. Rise of TMNT is a good cartoon. Okay, I like hearing that. I don't even understand why you'd do Akira in live action. It's specifically known for the visual style. Maybe. Yeah. Yeah, Wiley Parker's got it. I did it. Thank you, Wiley. The Orville is good, huh? Haven't seen that. Kind of avoided it because in general I don't really find Seth MacFarlane that funny. But maybe that's wrong of me. I don't know. Yeah, just using this gray, this light gray to sort of even out a few areas. Throw in some appropriate shadows, basically. The Orville is awful. It'll probably be canceled any day now. Oh, okay. I just started reading Jessica Blandy. Is that a comic or a book? I don't know Jessica Blandy. I think Berserk is best as a manga. I want to see a gritty reboot of NFL Super Pro. Good goal. Good goal. I think it'll definitely happen. I think that like someday NFL will just go, we're sitting on a gold mine. It's time to monetize this thing that everybody knows and loves. We're sitting on a goddamn gold mine here. I would say that about does it for what I'm going to do with this piece. Yeah. Let me just add a little light gray here. Well, I don't know if it's perfect. Apparently a bunch of you told me that I have drawn naked Snake, not solid Snake. Oops, I didn't realize it. Did you draw the cameos for the Comic Tropes intro? Yes, I drew everything for the intro. But it's all obviously based on famous covers. Let's see. Pepsi Man is an underutilized mascot. There you go. That gold mine again. The artwork in that Sabrina house is done by Clive Barker. Clive Barker. In the Sabrina house? Are you talking about the Netflix show? Excellent illustration. I think Snake would approve. Oh, that's good to hear. That's good to hear. Once they sold enough toys, the producers of Captain Power didn't want to continue the show. Yeah. Yeah, kind of weird. I'll just zoom in a little and scroll this over. So I feel like it's just the tiniest bit fuzzy, so I'm just sort of moving it around a little. The camera captures it a little better when it's not straight on and the light isn't reflecting directly on it. So you can see that there's a little bit more warmth to some of the color and stuff, and some texture to the boot. Snake? Snake? Snake! What do I think of Netflix's Umbrella Academy? Got asked this earlier tonight. It's okay. Seems like people really like it if they haven't read the comic. They seem to enjoy it a lot more. And I have read the comic, and I was just expecting it, or hoping for it to be a little weirder and a little faster paced. It's not bad, but I find it a little bit of a drag. A little bit of a drag. So, I know people have complained before that I haven't, drawn from the beginning. While I did have a little bit of loose sketchiness because I just needed something to... I tried to draw as much of this from scratch as I reasonably can on a TV show. And, yeah, pretty simple, basic pose, but hope you all got something out of this. I appreciate you joining me. I certainly appreciate the super chats. But I also appreciate just that you watch my show, subscribe, join in right now. Talking to us, talking to each other, talking to me. It's really nice. Appreciate it. So I'm going to take off now because I still need to record the Comic Tropes episode that you'll get this week. I think that you folks will like it. I really do. And got a bigger idea coming up for... just before Endgame comes out. Hopefully that goes well. Yeah, I've got a lot of ideas for upcoming Comic Tropes episodes. But I'm also going to be recording something for Patreon. I've decided to adjust my rewards and tiers, and I'm going to change one of the tiers rewards so that they get once a month a commentary on Comic Tropes. So I'll be recording those pretty soon. I think that could be interesting. We'll see. I hope. But that's something I'm going to be doing. Folks, I really appreciate you joining me. Thank you so much. Ladies, gentlemen, others, always appreciate your company. I'll have more content very soon. And until I see you next time, keep reading comics. Take care, everyone. Bye.